here at Berthelsen Park at the appropriately named Fern Trail. So Lila, thank you so much for the question.
Owl.
I have met an owl before, actually. Let me tell you that story. A few years ago, I worked for the city of San Antonio as a trail steward. Basically just patrolled the parks and the hiking and cycling trails called the Howard Peak Greenway System. Howard Peak was an old mayor in San Antonio. So I would patrol the trails and help people out, patrons, citizens of San Antonio who were on the trails and needed assistance. Also worked as a parks liaison, sort of a community outreach program to educate people about the Greenway system and other projects that the city of San Antonio was working on. As a trail steward, I didn't just work for the people of San Antonio, for the city of San Antonio, for the Parks and Recreation Department. No, I also worked for all the creatures that lived in these greenway systems. See, the greenway trails weren't just a place for people to go for recreation and exercise. It was also a way to prevent flooding and to allow for different animals to travel around and to give them refuge from the concrete of the city. During my year plus working on these trails in San Antonio, I met all kinds of cool animals. Cranes, deer, I saw lots of snakes, tons of different bugs, cool bugs, big bugs, scary bugs, friendly bugs. And I also met an owl one time. So as I was cruising down the trail with a coworker of mine, we noticed a little owl sitting behind a tree with a broken wing. So this is a barred owl. They're quite prolific there in central Texas, as well as the rest of North America. But we knew that if we didn't help this little guy out, he was likely going to die. So my coworker and I boxed him up carefully. You've got to be very careful around birds of prey because they have extremely, extremely sharp talons. But yeah, after some struggle, we boxed him up carefully and took him to a bird sanctuary in San Antonio. They saved his life, but the last I heard, he was going to have to spend the rest of it there at that bird sanctuary. So hopefully he's doing well. Not sure. But yeah, thank you so much for the question, Lila.
Owl.
That was the one time that I met an owl. So there you have it, folks. Another report from here at Berthelsen Park. Keep an eye out. These wild berries are starting to come out, but be careful. Don't eat any wild berries unless you know they're not poisonous. Adam, back to you. Hey, hey. Kicking it with Mr. Dangles. Yeah, look at Mr. Dangles. Looking good. What a beautiful sunny day. Munching on some grass. Dangling. Yeah, so we were just talking, me and Mr. Dangles, because I'm kicking it with Mr. Dangles, just talking about gender pronouns. Remember how that was a hot button issue before this virus hit? Words like he, she, they, them, it, her. What do we call transgender folks if they want us to call them something different than how we perceive them? Well, you can't really coerce people into using language that they don't want to use. But I just think that it's respectful to call people what they want to be called. I don't have a problem if someone says they'd like to be called her. I'll call them her. The other thing is, and Mr. Dangles agrees with me, kicking it with Mr. Dangles. Mr. Dangles says that, when you're in the company of someone, when you're kicking it with Mr. Dangles, say, I wouldn't refer to Mr. Dangles as he. I'd refer to Mr. Dangles as Mr. Dangles. So when you're in the company of someone, don't refer to them in the third person, right? It's disrespectful. You call them by their name. Mr. Dangles. We're kicking it with Mr. Dangles. Beautiful day here, Pacific Northwest again, summertime. Mr. Dangles has not escaped.